Good day, Sario. Good day to all my classmates. So, I am Rehniel Jhun Omaya. I am tasked to report about the content-based instruction. So, first, we're going to define what is a content-based instruction or the CBI. So, this refers to an approach to second language teaching in which teaching is organized around the content or subject matter that students will acquire, such as history or social studies, rather than around linguistics or another types of syllabus. So, this is also an emerged somewhat organically, advocated by a number of academics and educators, supported by extensive literature extending over a considerable period of time, but without official sanction. So, meaning content-based instruction, this approach to language teaching that focuses not on the language itself, but rather on what is being taught through the language. So that is the language becomes the medium through which something new is learned. This is also an approach, teaching approach, in which the learners study the language through the meaningful content. So because of the meaningful content, the students will motivate to learn because the subject matter is interesting. Okay, moving on to the next slide. The following are the several reasons account for the expansion of programs. So, number one, an application of principles of communicative language teaching, or we call it a CLT. The language that is being taught could be used to present subject matter, and the students would learn the language as byproduct of learning about real-world content. So, second is the basis for an arrival and streaming programs. This focus on the language newly arrived immigrants and others in the country need for survival. So, um, just say for example, if you have new students, the immigrant students, they need to study their first language. They're going to study for them, or the second language rather, for them to survive. Next is focus on giving students the language and other skills needed to enter the regular school curriculum. Okay, so next is the support for immersion education. So immersion education is a type of foreign language instruction in which the regular school curriculum is taught through the medium of the foreign language. So there are goals, students' goals of an immersion program include the following. Number one is developing a high level of proficiency in the foreign language. Number two is developing a positive attitude towards those who speak foreign language, developing foreign language skills commensurate with expectation, and lastly, number four, gaining designated skills and knowledge in the content areas of the curriculum. So moving on to the next slide, according to Brinton, 2007, provides a more detailed rationale for the content-based instruction or the CBI. So, the content-based curriculum removes the arbitrary distinction between language and content. So, it reflects the interests and needs of the learner. It offers optimal conditions for second acquisition. So, it provides pedagogical accommodations to learner. It views language as learned within larger framework of communication. It holds sustained content as necessary for providing authentic. It views rich, comprehensible input. It places a high value on feedback and accuracy. It supplements exposure to input through language enhanced instruction. It aims for balanced focus on fluency and accuracy. So moving to the next slide, this is the design objective. So content-driven CBI to language-driven CBI, the content-based instruction. So first, in the content-driven, content is taught in the second language. No, however, in the language-driven, the content is being used to learn in the second language acquisition. So, in the content, the language is taught, and the language driven, the content is used. Okay, next is in the content driven, content learning is priority. However, in the language driven, the language learning is um, priority. Okay, so they are the same. However, in the content-driven, language learning is secondary. In the language-driven, content learning is incidental. So meaning when we say incidental is unintentional or unplanned that results from other activities. So moving on, content objectives determined by the course, goals, or the curriculum. And the language-driven language objectives determined by the second language course, goals, or curriculum. The content-driven, teachers must select language objectives. So the teachers will be the one to select the language objectives. However, in the language-driven, the students evaluated on content to be integrated. So students evaluated on content mastery, this belongs to content-driven. And then the students evaluated on language skills, proficiency, and this belongs to language-driven or the CBIs. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. Um, so in the syllabus. So in the syllabus, CBI course, the syllable will depend on whether it is primarily content-driven or language-driven. So as noted, certain areas of content are thought to be more effective as a basis for the CBI. Okay, so moving to the next slide. There are types of learning and teaching activities. So according to Grandol 2012, he reviews the range of teaching activities that can be used according to the type of course and its context. These are the activities. So in the content-based instruction, so the teacher can draw on a range of relevant, meaningful, and engaging activities that increase student motivation in a more natural manner. Activities that involved cooperative, task-based, experiential, and project-based learning. So in the content-based instruction lessons, these include the use of the both authentic and adapted oral or written subject matter materials. So just say for example, textbooks, audio and visual materials, and other learning materials. Okay, moving on to the next slide. The learning rules in content-based instruction. So this one, so the goal in content-based instruction is for learners to become autonomous so that they come to understand their own learning process and take charge of their own learning from the very start. So this is according to Stryker and Lever 1993. So most content-based instruction courses anticipate that students will support each other in collaborative modes of learning. So when we say this one, support each other in the collaborative modes of learning, the student will help each other. So just say for example, per talk, just groupings, no? For the other, they're going to support each other. Okay, next is CBI is in the learning by doing school of pedagogy. So learning by doing. So this is the what we call this an authentic assessment. No, they're going to perform in a real situation or in real scenario. So next is CBI learners are expected to acquire language together with content through the noticing and awareness raising activities. So the teacher make use of hence the learner is expected to process language consciously as well as intuitively. It's according to Lister. Okay. This one for the students in the learner rules, the students is to encourage actively with both content and language. So using it to learn from each other. Okay, moving to the next slide, the teacher rules. So teachers have to familiarize themselves with, so at times, difficult and unfamiliar content and often have to develop their own courses or choose and adopt materials that provides a basis for the content-based instruction or the CBI. So they have to keep context and comprehensibility foremost in their planning and presentation. So they are responsible for selecting and adapting authentic materials for use in the class. Um, this one, the teachers want the student to master both language and content. So the teachers encourage the development of content and language simultaneously. So this sets clear learning objectives. So moving to the next slide, essential skill for any CBI instruction. So these are the skills that needed for the content-based instruction instructor. So this is according to Stryker and Lever 1993. Okay, so first is number one is varying format of classroom instruction. So meaning using a variety of different classroom instructions. So number two, using group work and team building techniques. So the activities that are done through groupings, so just say for example, talks, reportings, etc. So this group work, no, and team building techniques. So number three is organizing jigsaw reading arrangement. So this one, so each students, just say for example, in groupings, the student will move to the next group, new group, in which every member has become an expert on different part of the text. Okay, so number four, defining the background knowledge and language skills required for a student's success. Okay, so number five, moving to on to the number five, helping students develop coping strategies. So meaning, they're going to ask other students to help or assist them. No. Number six is using process approaches to writing. This focuses on the students in writing lessons and the teacher only acts as a guide. So for this one, the teacher will act only as a facilitator. Okay. So number seven is using appropriate error correction techniques. So developing and maintaining high level of levels of student esteem. So they will feel satisfied with themselves. Okay, now moving on to the next slide. Um, the role of instructional materials. So when we say instructional materials, in the CBI, the materials play a central role and maybe specially designed materials used to teach content subjects and a variety of different forms of authentic materials. So because context and situation specific materials are required with both approaches, commercial textbooks are not usually available since of the shell or the CLL materials are in short supply. So teachers often spend considerable time developing and or adapting existing learning. So resources with the CBI Crandall suggest the following kinds of materials and description that also applies to the role of materials in CLIL. Okay, moving to the next slide. Contemporary modes of CBI and CL. The principles of CBI and CLIL can be applied to the design course for learners um, at any level of language learning. So the following are example of different application of CBI and CLIL. So CBI courses, the four models listed below. So are all appropriate for university courses. Courses at the elementary and secondary levels tend to use a theme-based and adjunct approach. So first is going to discuss first the theme-based model. So the theme-based model, this is a language course in which the syllables are organized around themes or topics such as the modern cinema. The course might be taught with a language theme for which content specialist. So at the university level of general theme as business and marketing or immigrants in a new city might provide organizing topics for 2 weeks of integrated classroom. So this one, so this is the different ways that is implemented in the classroom. In a theme-based model, the students will learn the context from overlying theme or set of topics. So the teachers will just create language activities for the students based on the content theme. Okay, moving to the next slide. Sheltered model. So this refers to the content courses taught in the second language by content areas specialized to a group of ESL learners who have been grouped together for this purpose. So this approach is sometimes used at university levels. Example in Canada and the United States. So just say for example, the sheltered model, the students will acquire a second language, attend school taught in the second language along native speaker classmates. So next is the adjunct model. When we say adjunct model, in this model, students are enrolled in two linked courses. So one a content course and one is a language course. With both courses sharing the same content base and complementing each other in terms of mutually coordinated assignments. So these courses are often designated to prepare students for mainstreaming. So example, preparing children to enter high schools in English speaking countries or to enter in English medium universities, and will often contains a focus on the language and vocabulary of academic subjects as well as academic study skills. In adjunct model, the students will enroll in two linked courses, so one content course and one language course. So both courses complement each other with coordinating assignments. Next is the skill-based model. So when we say skill-based model, this is the characterized by a focus on a specific academic skill. So just say for example, academic writing. This is characterized by a focus on a specific academic skills area. Now, so that is linked to a concurrent study of specific subject matter. So in one more academic disciplines, and here is as much in a common with an ASP or the English for specific purposes, or EAP, English for academic purposes approach. So this may mean that students write. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. So, okay, that's it. So thank you. So those are the several CBI courses, the four model listed. Now that we talked earlier. Okay, so thank you so much for listening. So if you have any clarifications and queries, just ask me. Thank you so much.